intelligence. He used it. He accepted it. A lot of officers didn't always accept intelligence as being something useful. They doubted whether we really knew what we were doing. But Admiral Nimitz was a friend, and he used intelligence to his advantage. And
what was it like when you broke that code about the Battle of or what became the Battle of Midway? I mean, what did that? Do you remember what that said, or how you?
Oh,
what was the message?
There was an awful lot of work involved in that over a period of a month. We really started getting messages on it in May of 1942, and all during the month of May we were increasing our knowledge of what the Japanese were going to do. There was some debate as to what their target was. People in Washington felt that such a large Japanese operation would not go to such a small island as Midway. They thought Hawaii was going to be attacked and invaded rather than Midway. But we were pretty sure it was Midway, and we told Admiral Nimitz that, and Admiral Nimitz examined our evidence, and he agreed with us. And in the end, we had to concoct a little trick on the Japanese in order to make them prove to us that it was Midway. And what we did, Midway was an atoll. Atolls don't have any source of natural fresh water because they're just little coral reefs with an island. And so to maintain a base on a place like Midway, you had to have evaporators, like on ships, to desalinate seawater and produce your own fresh water. So we knew that fresh water was a vital commodity. So we proposed that we send a message, to the commanding officer of our base at Midway and have him send a message back to us in the plain language, so it would be sure to be seen and read and understood by the Japanese, because we intercept each other's messages, you know. And say that he had suffered a casualty to his evaporator plant, and he only had sufficient fresh water for 10 days, and that he would need to be resupplied. So that was done, and the next morning we got a message from Wake Island, where the Japanese intercept station was, back to Tokyo, saying that the commanding officer of the Naval Air Station at AF was the Japanese designator for Midway, and he said the commanding officer of the U.S. Naval Air Station at AF reported that he has an evaporator casualty and is short of fresh water. It proved it. And
so any message you saw with AF, you knew it. Okay.
Knew it would be Midway, and that settled a dispute with Washington, who thought AF was something else, something bigger, and that's known as the water message. And that's become kind of famous in intelligence history.
So when the war was over, then you still worked in intelligence the rest of your career, right?
I was a Naval Reserve officer. I could have gotten out of the Navy, like a lot of people were, but many people in the Navy who had been drafted or joined up had jobs to go back to, and during World War II, anybody that left a job, the job had to be held open for them so they could return to it. I didn't have a job. I'd been a student, and I'd finished my school. So I didn't have anything to go back to, and I was very interested in what I was doing, and the Navy offered me an opportunity to transfer from the Naval Reserve to the regular Navy as an intelligence specialist. And so I did it in 1946, and I continued on for the rest of my naval career. With no break in service, I continued on as an intelligence officer for the balance of the 31 years.
And you showed me a picture here, I'll grab it, of you wearing your, you've got the Medal of Honor on, is that right?
That's when I was a lieutenant.
Oh, okay.
Right after World War II.
Okay.
when we had returned to Hawaii from Guam, and Admiral Nimitz gave me an award of the Bronze Star.
Okay.
And that's a Bronze Star medal that he pinned on me for service on his staff for the last eight months of the war.
Okay. I bet that was a special day.
It was a special day.
Yeah. Well, so you're in the Navy now. You're in the and now you're back, and you are. Were you looking for a wife or what?
Well, I wasn't looking for a wife, but I had a girlfriend at the beginning of the war, and I was a recipient of a Dear John letter from her early in the war, and that didn't bother me because I was being kept busy fighting the Japanese.
Okay.
But when I came back to Washington after duty in the Pacific, I didn't have any girlfriends, so I was free and available, you know. And I got introduced to a group of young ladies who were airline hostesses for Capital Airlines based in Washington, and 6 or 7 of them lived in an apartment which they called Glamour Manor, and they were all pretty good-looking girls. Most of them were nurses, because in those days you had to be a nurse to be an airline hostess, and you had to be single. So I was introduced to this group of girls, and I had a blind date with one of them and took her out one night. Didn't particularly have a good time, but she wasn't my type. But when I returned her home that evening, the girls who were coming and going at all hours of the day and night, catching and returning from flights, I met another young lady by the name of Billy, and she was a knockout. And I decided right then and there, that's the gal I want out of this group. And so I started dating her, and that was about a year later. I married her. I gave her a ring at Christmas time and married her the following June.
Where were you married? What church or where were you?
We were married in her hometown of Clifton Forge, Virginia,
Okay.
at her home church, a Presbyterian church in Clifton Forge, Virginia. And then we started traveling. I did a lot of overseas duty for the Navy and took my family with me. We had our first child. Our daughter was born about a year later, and we were transferred to London, England, in 1950, and took Donna with us. She was only 10 months old when we went, but we were over there for nearly 3 years. So we did duty in both London, England, and Naples, Italy during that overseas tour, and then back to Washington. I told people I was on a yo-yo. Every other tour of duty would be in Washington. I would go out and come back, out and back. So we went to Europe, and then back to Washington, and then we went to San Diego, and back to Washington. And we went to Newport, Rhode Island, and back to Washington. And we went to Hawaii and back to Washington. So we had good duty. We did a lot of traveling. We moved frequently. The children loved it. They grew up as service brats, Navy brats. But the entire family loved the duty in Hawaii. And of course, I had been in Hawaii for the better part of 4 years during the war. And then I went back as the Fleet Intelligence Officer at the same headquarters where Admiral Nimitz had been. And I was there 4 years. And that was really the highlight. Everybody wanted me to retire and stay in Hawaii. But then I got selected for Admiral. And when you get that, you can't stay where you are. So I had to come back to Washington again. And my last 5 years of active duty was with the Defense Intelligence Agency and Pentagon in Washington, D.C.
Wow. What, the Pentagon was hit on September 11th. I bet that day was, that meant something to you when the Pentagon was scary day.
I was in my car listening to that series of attacks on the radio, while I was driving in